I never thought I'd write these words. I never thought I'd be in this situation. But here I am, a broken man, haunted by a truth I wish I could unlearn. 2 years ago, my wife Sarah drowned our son Ethan in the bathtub. I came home from work to find her sitting on the bathroom floor, knees pulled to her chest, rocking back and forth. Ethan's lifeless body floated in the water, his small, pale face just beneath the surface. His favorite rubber duck still bobbed next to him. She didn't even look at me as I ran into the room, screaming, grabbing Ethan's body, desperately trying to revive him. But I knew it was too late. I knew from the moment I touched him that he was gone. Sarah didn't say a word as the paramedics arrived, as they pulled me away from my son, as they took her into custody. The woman I had loved, the mother of my child, was arrested for murder. I spent months in shock, disbelief clouding my every thought. How could Sarah, who adored Ethan more than anything in the world, do something so horrific? The psychiatrists said she had a psychotic break, that she wasn't herself. They claimed postpartum depression had spiraled into something far darker and more dangerous. But I couldn't accept it. I refused to believe that the woman I loved could ever be capable of that. In my grief and anger, I couldn't bring myself to visit Sarah in the psychiatric facility where she was held. I wanted nothing to do with her. Every memory of our life together felt like a lie, poisoned by that one act of violence. But over time, a nagging thought grew in the back of my mind. Something didn't add up. It wasn't just the insanity plea, or the way the doctors explained her mental state. There was something else, something I couldn't put into words. A few months ago, I found the courage to go through Sarah's things. I'd avoided her personal belongings since the incident, but I needed closure. I needed answers. That's when I found it, her journal. I never knew she kept one. The pages were filled with her thoughts, her fears, her love for Ethan. But as I read deeper, the tone began to shift. The entries became erratic, paranoid. She started writing about Ethan seeing things I had never noticed. He talks to someone at night, says her name is Mara. I hear whispers coming from his room, but when I check, there's nothing there. Ethan says Mara is always watching. She doesn't like me. The last entry, written just days before she drowned him, sent chills down my spine. Mara wants him. She says it's the only way to protect him. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I didn't understand. Who was Mara? A figment of Ethan's imagination? Or was Sarah slipping further into madness? I needed to know more, so I began digging through Ethan's old things. That's when I found the drawing. It was hidden beneath his bed, a crude sketch made with crayon. Ethan had drawn himself, me, Sarah, and someone else. A tall, shadowy figure with long, tangled hair. The figure had no eyes, just black holes where they should have been, and a wide, toothy grin. Beneath the drawing, in Ethan's childish handwriting, was one word: Mara. My heart raced. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing, but deep down, I knew this was real. I remembered how Ethan had started acting strange before his death, waking up at odd hours, staring at corners of the room, speaking to someone I couldn't see. I had brushed it off as typical child behavior. But now, with everything Sarah had written, with Ethan's drawing, I knew this wasn't just a coincidence. Desperate for answers, I started researching. I scoured every corner of the internet, looking for any mention of Mara. At first, all I found were folklore references, an ancient demon said to visit people in their sleep, feeding on fear. But then I stumbled upon something that chilled me to my core. A forum filled with parents who had lost their children under mysterious circumstances, all of them recounting eerily similar stories. Each child had mentioned someone named Mara before their deaths. Some parents described their children drawing the same figure, a tall, shadowy woman with no eyes and a sinister smile. It wasn't just folklore, it was real. Mara was real. Suddenly, everything clicked. Sarah hadn't drowned Ethan out of madness. She had done it to protect him. From Mara, from whatever that thing was. She must have believed that drowning him was the only way to keep him from being taken by that entity. I didn't want to believe it, but now, every night, I hear it. The whispers coming from Ethan's old room. A soft female voice, calling my name. Come play, Daddy. Come hide and seek. Mara is still here, and she's waiting. The nights after discovering Mara's presence in our lives were torture. Sleep was a distant memory, and every shadow in my house seemed alive, breathing, waiting. I knew she was still there, watching, waiting for her next move. I could feel her in every corner of my home, the air thick with her presence. The first time I heard her whisper my name, I almost convinced myself it was a dream, but it wasn't. Her voice was soft, like a child's, coaxing, playful, like Ethan's voice had been when he asked me to play hide and seek. "Come play, Daddy. Come hide and seek." I couldn't go into his room anymore. The memories of his laughter, his drawings, his toys. It was too much. And now, with Mara there, it was unbearable. I tried to ignore her, convincing myself that it was all in my head, a product of my grief. But she didn't let up. Every night, the whispers became louder, more insistent. Then the noises started. The soft patter of footsteps in the hall, the door creaking open just a crack. It was as if she was taunting me, reminding me that no matter what I did, she was already inside. One night, after days of sleepless nights and creeping paranoia, I reached my breaking point. I sat in the living room, the dim light of a single lamp casting long, eerie shadows across the walls. The house was silent, too silent. I sat there, gripping a bottle of whiskey in one hand and Ethan's old stuffed bear in the other, my mind a swirling mess of memories, pain, and fear. Then I heard it. A giggle. Faint but unmistakable. Ethan's giggle. I froze. It couldn't be. He was gone. I knew he was gone, but the sound was so familiar, so real, it made my heart race. Slowly I stood up and followed the sound, dread weighing down every step. It led me to his bedroom. Of course it did. The door was slightly ajar, and from inside I heard it again, his voice calling me. "Daddy, come play." My hand shook as I pushed the door open, the hinges squeaking in protest. The room was just as I had left it after the funeral, untouched, frozen in time. Ethan's toys were scattered on the floor, his bed neatly made. But there, sitting in the center of the room, was a shadow. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, but as I squinted, I saw her. Mara. She was exactly like Ethan had drawn her. Tall, impossibly tall, with long, tangled black hair that seemed to slither down her back like vines. Her face was pale, almost translucent, except for those empty black holes where her eyes should have been. Her mouth stretched into a grotesque smile, unnaturally wide, showing rows of sharp, glistening teeth. She was crouched low, almost childlike, playing with Ethan's toys, her long, bony fingers gently caressing them as if they were hers. I couldn't move. My feet felt like they were cemented to the floor, my body paralyzed by fear. Mara slowly turned her head toward me, that horrifying smile growing even wider. Her voice was soft, like a lullaby, but dripping with malice. "We've been waiting for you, Daddy. Ethan misses you." My heart pounded in my chest. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't. It was as if the very air around me had solidified, trapping me in place. I could feel her pulling me toward her, a sickening, invisible force drawing me closer. Then she stood up, towering over me, her presence filling the room like a dark cloud. Her head tilted to one side as if she was studying me, her eyeless gaze boring into my soul. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. I was helpless under her gaze. "Ethan was mine from the beginning," she hissed, her voice no longer soft, but cold and venomous. "Your wife tried to save him, but you can't stop what's already been claimed. He belongs to me now. But don't worry, you will too, soon." At that moment, something snapped inside me. I wasn't going to let her take me, not like she had taken my son. I forced myself to move, stumbling back out of the room and slamming the door shut behind me. But even then, I could still hear her, her voice slithering through the cracks of the door like poison. "You can't hide forever, Daddy. Come play." I bolted to the kitchen and grabbed the first thing I could find, a large knife. I wasn't thinking rationally, but it felt like having it in my hand gave me some sense of control, of power. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't be enough. How do you fight something that's not human? Something ancient, malevolent, something that had already taken everything from me? I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I could feel her watching, waiting for me to break. I knew it was only a matter of time before she made her move. But I wasn't going to give in. Not yet. I needed to understand why Mara had come for Ethan, why she had marked him from birth. Then, I remembered something. Sarah's journal. She had written about strange occurrences even before Ethan was born. Whispers in the night, shadows that didn't belong, nightmares that had plagued her during her pregnancy. Could Mara have been with us all along, waiting for the right moment to strike? I had to know the truth. I returned to the journal, scouring every page for something, anything that could explain what Mara was, why she had chosen our family. That's when I found it, scribbled in the margins of one of the last pages, almost as if Sarah had written it in a rush, a desperate plea. The mark. She's marked him. I see it now. It's in his eyes. I can't stop her unless... The entry ended there, abruptly. But it was enough. I had to find out what Sarah meant by the mark. Something told me it was the key to understanding Mara, to stopping her. But as I sat there piecing everything together, I heard it again, Ethan's giggle, from behind me. And this time, I knew it wasn't just Mara. She wasn't alone anymore. Ethan had come back.